deadliest animal in the world kills more people each year than every other animal combined, makes hundreds of millions of people sick, and is half the length of a staple. It's the mosquito. Luckily, there are good bugs. They're the same kind of mosquito, but good bugs can't bite. Good bugs can't breed. And most importantly, good bugs can stop bad bugs.
Tech giant Google has launched a Stop Bad Bugs with Good Bugs program to slow down the spread of West Nile virus in Florida and California, with plans to release up to 32 million bioengineered mosquitoes. What could possibly go wrong with that? The plan is to supposedly fight off disease-riddled mosquitoes. They're currently waiting for approval from the EPA for this debug initiative. Now, while obvious it's very unfortunate if you happen to get sick from the West Nile virus, most people will be just fine. The disease kills on average 120 to 130 people nationally every year. Now, that's out of 342 million Americans. Important to note that less than 1% of those that catch it will even develop serious symptoms. Yep. Comorbidities, including advanced age, play a huge part. Now, where have we heard this before? And the fatality rate is estimated at just 4%. 80% of cases never even show symptoms at all. The 20% who do experience something like a mild flu and typically recover within a couple weeks. So what are we really contemplating here? Allowing the big tech billionaires to bioengineer mosquitoes to solve a problem that barely registers in the U.S.? Epidemiologist for the McCullough Foundation, Nicolas Hulscher, and former Trump EPA transition member Steve Milloy are here with us to help answer that question. Nicolas, I want to start with you. 130 people a year, and the only time the virus causes serious illness or fatality is for people who are of a certain age, have certain chronic medical conditions, or a weak immune system. Is this Google having a solution in search of a problem?
Well, listen, Florida had 6 confirmed West Nile virus cases in 2025, 6. And so I think Google should stick to web browsers and AI instead of conducting one of the largest open-air biological experiments in U.S. history to release, it's actually 64 million mosquitoes into California and Florida, which could result in irreversible ecological system disruptions.
Steve, let me ask you, why would the EPA even consider approving this? I mean, Google's a tech company. And I think to the doc's point, why should Floridians and Californians be subject to this wild experiment?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that Google can talk the Trump EPA into this because Google has got special access to the Trump administration. And, I don't trust Google either. They're great at AI, for example, and web browsing. Not so great on policy issues, though. And this is one of those. The biological, the food chain effects are unknown. We don't really know that this is going to be that effective. It's been tried in Singapore. The results aren't all that whiz bang. Once you start taking the proper public health measures for preventing mosquitoes, things tend to improve. So that could be what happened in Singapore. We really don't know. Singapore is a very regimented society to start with, unlike America.
Yeah, unknown, experimental, and the American people have to just be the unwilling lab rats. Nicolas, let me ask you, Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, he made a great point on X. He said, why does Google have 32 million mosquitoes? Have we not learned our lesson with kudzu, sparrows, blackbirds, Asian carp? Should I go on? Don't mess with the balance of nature. Now, kudzu was a vine introduced to the U.S. by Japan as a, quote, wonderful ornamental plant with beautiful flowers that causes a loss of timber and forest productivity and almost $500 million in losses. Sparrows were introduced for pest control. Well, they cause $200 million in agricultural damage every year. And then 100 blackbirds were introduced into Central Park, and now 100 million starlings cause $800 million in agricultural damage every year. Asian carp used for wastewater treatment and could threaten a $7 billion fishery business with millions being spent trying to stop it. So how does this debugging impact, and how could it impact our environment?
Yeah, there's a few major risks we have to consider. The first one is if you eliminate an entire or suppress severely an entire species of mosquito, you could have other invasive species fill that role, and you'll also disrupt the food chain in the ecosystem because birds, bats, frogs, they all eat mosquitoes, so they're going to have less food there. That could disrupt that, screw things up there. As well as Google actually tried this in Fresno in 2018. It did suppress the mosquitoes, but once they stopped, all the mosquitoes came back. So basically, Google wants to put people on a subscription service of mosquito releasing.
You can't make this up. Nicolas Hulscher, Steve Milloy, thank you guys. Appreciate the time tonight.
All right, Bill, thank you.
You got it.